Hey guys, and welcome to this guide for Season 6 League of Legends Champion, and in today's guide I'll be going over Azir. Now, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I've actually done a video already on playing Azir Support, so if you want to check that out in the description below, it'll be much helpful to yourself, because then you can make reference to this actual guide, because that will be the gameplay, this will be the guide for it. So I said if if people liked it enough, I'd go ahead and I'd do a support guide for it. It isn't your initial support, alright? It's not your number one support, although if you practice it enough, anything can happen. I'm going to cover the basics in this guide. So first of all, obviously we're going to start with the champion himself. Now let's look at his abilities. Like I said before, if you go ahead and you look into my gameplay video, you'll be able to see these abilities played out at normal speed instead of going over in slow, but I'll go over them slow anyway. So Azir's passive is Shurima's Legacy. Azir can summon the Disc of the Sun from the ruins of the allied or enemy turret. So basically he summons a big turret to take place of the one that was destroyed. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Excellent passive if it comes to losing your turret in bot lane to sustain, to provide a bit of safety for you and your allies. His Q is Conquering Sands. Azir sends all sand soldiers towards a location. Sand soldiers deal magic damage to enemies they pass through and apply a slow for 1 second. Once again, I'll let this play through. You can watch it in a controlled environment. This is what happens. Basically, it commands the sand soldiers to go to one direction, so you have all that magic damage that hits initially. So that is from his soldiers. So his soldiers come from Arise, that's his W. This is what you will start every single game. Azir summons a sand soldier to attack nearby targets for him, replacing his basic attacks against targets within the soldier's range. Their attacks deal magic damage to enemies in a line. Arise also passively grants attack speed to Azir and his sand soldiers. So again, this is attack speed. And also you have your soldiers as well, which is basically what his kit is revolved around. So you wanna max this every time you get this. I'll let this play out. It's fairly simple. You hit W, it summons a sand soldier. There it is. Obviously, the more points that you have in W, the more soldiers that you can summon. So it's great. It's amazing. Shifting Sands is his E. Azir dashes to one of his sand soldiers, damaging enemies. If he hits an enemy champion, he gains a shield. So it's a built-in shield, as well as, you do the initial damage, you travel, you can do the Shurima shuffle with this as well. And I'll let this play out for you so you can watch this one. Obviously, if it hits an enemy, he gains a shield. So there you go. That's important if you do want to make a play with his Emperor's Divide, which we'll go over in a second. You want to hit it on top of an enemy, so you'll W, you'll Q, you'll E into an enemy, preferably gaining a shield so you can absorb that initial damage that you receive. Emperor's Divide is his R, so this is the ultimate. Azir summons a wall of soldiers which charge forward, knocking back and damaging enemies. So this is impossible to get out of. I'm pretty sure unless you have a QSS. I'll let this play through so you can watch this. At a controlled environment speed. Zz'Rot, Renekton get both pushed back by the ultimate. Again, Azir can walk in and out of his ultimate without being blocked. Other people cannot. So the way you would want to upgrade this, alright, you want to upgrade this so you start with your Arise, because you cannot start a game with anything else because you need your soldiers. And so you start with W, then you take Q for your Conquering Sands. Shifting Sands as well is his E. So it'd go W, Q, E, continue maxing W until you get to upgrade your R. You'll always upgrade that is your priority. So W, Q, E, R all the time, any chance that you get. Another quick tip, if you're using these soldiers, always keep a soldier available to summon, just in case you need to get away. Don't summon all your soldiers on top of one person, because if you miss that and they're a gap closer, they're going to close in on you. You're not going to have any escapes, because your whole kit is revolved around playing with the soldiers. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Keep a soldier always Azir. So you got your 9 mark of magic pen reds. This is pretty much standard, so you can get that magic penetration. Early game it does a lot of damage. You got your greater seal of armor because you're going against the bot lane. You don't need to scale as Azir. That's one thing you don't need to do, because you'll do that through your items and your damage. Greater glyph of magic resist blue, so you need 9 of them as well. So it's a basic flat defensive page, including obviously your ability power Quints. which I've got 3 of them there, and you've also got your 9 magic pen red. So that's, you're getting your damage, you're getting a nice balance of damage as well as your defensive stats in there as well. This is the only rune page that I've gone with. You can shake it up, you can go with whatever you want, you know, it's totally up to yourself, whatever works for you, whether you want to scale, whether you're playing against a double AD bot lane and you want to go for more armor and stuff like that, it's totally up to you. Masteries, now masteries are fairly straightforward. They're probably similar to the ones that you'd play in the mid lane. Obviously it's 12 and 18 in Zz'Rot, so 12 in Ferocity, you got your 18 in Cunning, 5 in Sorcery. This gives you increased ability damage. This is pretty straightforward, and because you're playing support, I've gone with Expose Weakness. So this enables your ADC to do a lot more damage to the enemy, whoever that you hit, especially in team fights. You're going to do a lot of AoE damage with your soldiers, so it's pretty good for the rest of your team to join in and do that added percentage of damage. Vampirism is straightforward as well. You want to get that spell vamp and lifesteal. As well as ending on Oppressor. Deal 2.5% increased damage to targets with impaired movement. You're always going to get that impaired movement. I'll explain why once I get to the build. That is a must to have on Azir. In Cunning, we go with Wanderer, so you get that movement speed out of combat. You also get your secret stash, so you get your extra percentage of potions and elixirs, so they last a lot longer. And then you drop down to Merciless. Deal 5% increased damage to champions below 40% health. That's key because it ties in with the Thunderlord's Decree at the bottom, and you can proc that, so even if they're low you can proc that, and it does do a lot of damage on top of that. Dangerous game, champion skills and assists restore 5% of your missing health and mana. You're going to get a lot of assists as Azir, you might even get a lot of kills as well because you're a carry support, especially in that type of role. Precision as well, gaining magic penetration and armor penetration per level is pretty important as well because it ties in with your runes, so you're doing that extra magic pen, and it's really helpful in the bot lane. Obviously ending on Thunderlord's Decree because you can proc that so quickly with your soldiers. 2 soldiers and they're not all attacking, that's basically procced. There's a huge chunky damage. I made perfect example of that in my video that I did on the gameplay of Azir Support, so you might want to check that out because there's a lot of examples in there where I use it to the full extent. I think I secure a couple kills off it as well, so it's very helpful to check that out. So that's the masteries covered as well. If you have any questions, you know, leave me a question in the comments asking, you know, why would you go this, why wouldn't you go this, etc. You know, I'll be happy to answer. You can go different masteries as well, but these are probably the main ones that I would stick to as Azir, because this is getting your full damage. You're a damage support. Playing AP damage support is probably the best way to go for Azir. If you're going to play tanky, anything like that, I'd probably not recommend it, but there might be times that you would. I still haven't worked out a build for that because it would take some doing if you're playing a utility Azir. That is my masteries and my runes. So I'm going to go into the items now. Items is fairly straightforward. Now I do mention in my video why I'm going the build path that I'm going, etc. If you have a passive ADC who needs to scale, you might want to add that extra damage in the beginning of the game. So you might want to pick up, well, I put a stinger there, you might want to pick that up first before you pick anything else up, so you can go hand in hand with the enemy ADC, enemy support. It's all situational, you know, you can change it up. If you need damage, you build damage. If you don't need damage, you can progressively build towards something more expensive, or you can go more defensive. It's totally up to you. Anyway, the starting items that I've gone for is the core. So Frostqueen's claim is always a big factor. The spooky ghost active is excellent. In my gameplay I didn't go that, I went with Eye of the Watchers because it's easier, it frees up another slot, so you're not carrying that extra sight stone, it's already put into your core item. I'd probably recommend that because you can fit a lot more items on Azir that will do a significant amount in the game, so probably work on that, work on making decisions like that. It's also situational and important too. Stinger is there because that is a key factor. You will always pick this up, it will be your core. Whether you develop it into Nashor's Tooth, that's totally up to you, but again, if you're going to go for a Nashor's Tooth, it'll be late mid game, or in the late game it might even not be completed, it might just stay Stinger, but it helps with your soldiers, it helps proc the Thunderlords, helps do a lot more damage. I've gone with Sorcerer's Shoes because I think the extra damage is required on Azir. The magic pen is excellent, I think you should always drive towards that magic pen. So Sorcerer's Shoes is there. If you want to switch up, again, Swifties would be a good example of maybe putting them in. I wouldn't probably choose any other boots other than Swifties and Sorcerers. Maybe even boots of Lucidity. that would be pretty good on Azir. For your options, I've started off with Rylai's Crystal Scepter. Now I refer back to the Masteries where you've chosen Oppressor in the Ferocity tree. You'll get the slow from Rylai's and you'll do the extra damage because you have the Oppressor Mastery, and with the Slinger involved as well, your attack speed is greatly increased, and then you'll do a heck of a lot of damage and it'll be slowed by the Rylai's. You'll have your Oppressor kicking in as well. You'll have a lot of damage in a short amount of time, and very key item. It's not quite core, but it's the first one that you probably go to build. If you're going a tanky build, and it might be worthwhile picking up a Catalyst early and then driving into a Road of Ages, because then you can gain the health over time every time you level up, etc. It's a very good item on Azir if you're looking to go a bit more tanky. Zhonya's is there as well, because if you come across a Zed, someone like that who can one-shot you with their ultimate, it's basically to keep you alive for as long as possible. Especially if you go in with your Sand Soldiers, you use your ultimate to break up the fight, and then you become the focus of the back row. You can Zhonya, so you can hold out a little bit more, you can zone them with your soldiers, etc. Plays can be made with this. Abyssal Scepter is more of a snowball item. If they're building a little bit of magic resistance because you're such a threat, pick up this item, it will totally nullify it. It's a fantastic item on Azir. Again, similar to the Zhonya's, Ohmwrecker is there because it prevents turrets from attacking you for 3 seconds. If you go in and then you use your ultimate to push anybody out from the turret, you won't take the initial damage, you won't take the initial 3-second damage from the turret, and that can mean the difference between life or death. So Ohmwrecker is a fantastic item on Azir. It gives you the health, it gives you base regen as well, and also gives you 10% cooldown reduction, which is even better. Spirit Visage, now that's a tanky item. You'd only go this if you really need the magic resistance, say they have a LeBlanc or something like that, but in terms of that, you probably pick up your Locket of Iron Solari, which I've included in there too. You've also got your Bannery Command if they're a heavy AP team and you want to siege. You can siege very well with Azir. He is fantastic for sieging. He has his passive turret. If you pick up Banner Command, you can protect that siege minion with your soldiers by throwing them in every now and then with Q, so it's relatively safe item to buy. Like I said, I already mentioned a Locket of Iron Solari. You get the 400 health, you also get the 10% cooldown reduction. Fantastic item would get on Azir. Zz'Rot as well, you're a siege champion, a split pushing machine with your turret. With you can use your Sand Soldiers on the turrets to do that initial extra damage, and you can protect the Rot portal relatively well. So all in all, Azir is a split pushing threat, he's a sieging threat, he's everything that this meta needs. Most people will take him mid lane rather than to the support, but if you take him at support, it opens different doors, opens different opportunities for winning the game, because this is objective based, and I've had relatively good success with Azir, so I think you should try him out. I think he's fantastic. Like I said, if you have any questions about the build or anything like that, let me know in the comments section below and I'll get straight back to you. If you have anything to add to this, I'd love to hear about it. If you played Azir Support, I'd love to hear about it as well, and let me know how you get on. So this has been my guide for Azir, guys. If you do like it, leave a like. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope it's encouraged you to play him, and I shall see you in the next video.